Call this meeting to order. Would all please, as you're willing and able, stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, and thank you all for coming. We start with opportunity for public comment. We have no one who has signed up for public comment tonight, so we'll move directly into the report of the secretary, and I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, October 4th, 2023.
I'll second, Lisa.
Lisa, thank you. Any comments about them or questions? Usual spectacular job.
Yep, great job.
Looks good.
I think it's just so cool that you have the times
Yes.
next to
I
the
know, I like that.
topics.
I
So
like
if someone
that.
does want to go and listen to just that part
Yes.
of the meeting, they can do that in the recording.
Any comments or questions from the board? All in favor? That is 5-0. Thank you. And that moves us into the report of the chair. We have one item on the report of the chair tonight, and that is that we did meet with the officials from both of our towns this past Wednesday. Jen, did you want to go ahead?
I
and
will. Please
start
feel
that?
free to chime in.
Will do.
Because I did stop writing at one point. Okay, so to start, Mr. Caverly started with just sort of just a brief enrollment update that our numbers were being finalized. Just an update on some of the policies that came for first reads regarding Narcan. A little update on the Career Center here. And just that our extracurriculars are up and running, and we have pretty high enrollment for extracurriculars this year. And then Mr. Sullivan from Elliott gave his update. A lot of it related to roads and intersections, starting with the Deeper Road 236 intersection analysis. Again, it sounds like the DOT is going to look at an option again, potentially for maybe a rotary or something happening there, but it still sounds like it's a couple years away still. They have a website that's in progress, like a work in progress, updating the website for the town, and they are looking for someone who trains people in Microsoft 365. So if anybody out there knows anything about that and wants to talk to the town of Elliott, they would be grateful.
No thanks.
And then the construction on 236, which if you've driven down 236 in the past couple months, you all know, has been a challenge. That should be wrapping up in the next week or so. And he apologized for the inconvenience, but hoping that, this is just going to be an improvement in the end. Their budget process is in its beginning stages. Also, they've been struggling with trash removal and the significant impact to budgets that's going to have for them. So they've been in some talks with Eco Maine and the town of South Berwick to see if there's anything that they can do to maybe join with South Berwick and cut costs in any way, whether that's recycling related or just general trash removal. So sort of just kind of thinking down the line. And then just an update that there's down the line, not anytime soon, but thinking about sort of having talks with some community members about a meeting space and recreation space in Elliott, but just sort of things on the horizon. And then South Berwick, also 236 project on the South Berwick end of things. There's going to be a new traffic light at, is it correct me, Portland and Maine?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
And Maine and 236.
And Maine and 236,
Yeah.
okay. Did they give a timeline on that?
So they got a grant for the design phase, which starts in January, the engineering full design, and that will take calendar year 24.
Okay. And then there's a lighting project for the town offices that's being done over the next 5 years, so there'll be no impact to the budget for that. The Red Barn by the Aggie Field was like a controlled burn and practice for the fire station, and that will now have more parking for Aggie Fields. What else here? The parade on the 30th for Halloween. They're working to get the police station fully staffed. They're close, but not quite there yet, but close. I have something about they're looking into town water and sewer. I have something related to Punkintown Road here. Is that right or no?
I just had a note that Punkintown does not currently have, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Town sewer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Town water.
Okay, town water,
Yeah.
okay. And then they're currently taking RFPs for town hall renovation.
/ build note.
Okay.
Decision to be made.
Thank you. What else do you have, Joe?
You must have stopped writing right at the end.
I
because
did.
That's all I have.
Where it got real messy and I
That
can't
was
read
great,
it, yes.
thank you.
Okay. Sorry for the
Okay,
long-winded.
any
Thank
questions
you.
from the board? Then we'll move on to the report of the superintendent.
Great, thank you very much. I'm really proud to have a group in front of us tonight who've been working on the Marshall Hall of Fame Excellence presentation. And so I'm going to turn this over to Rich Buzzell to share kind of the great work that's been going on over the last 6 months.
Great, thanks. So you guys got this set up for the short guy already, so I don't need to adjust it. I want to thank everybody and John and the board for having us here. And it's pretty exciting in what we're doing right now. I just want to give you a little bit of history to tell you how we got here and where we're at. And we've got a little slideshow. Crystal's going to hand out to everybody here our bylaws that we have come up with over the course of the last 8 or 9 months or so since we started working on this. One thing that became really evident when John took over as superintendent, not only did he want us in the school system celebrating the kids that were in the schools, but finding ways to celebrate our graduates and people that had gone through our schools and celebrate those successes. So these go hand in hand. It's like what we did for Matt Ricks and dedication of the weight room, of the wrestling room. And this really fits hand in hand with us. And I'm going to introduce, we've got several of our members here that are part of our committee. 8 out of 12 are here this evening, which is great. There are some one son's getting married down in Nashville, and that was acceptable. We told him he could take off. So, probably more than a year ago, John had ever so slightly told me that we really should start working on a Hall of Fame. And I took it as maybe, like most schools do, that the Hall of Fame was going to be geared towards athletics. And what I did was I started doing some research, probably last February or so, and polling a lot of schools in Maine and New Hampshire who had just undertaken this process and tried to find out what their pitfalls were and what their successes were, and so we could learn from that. And we decided we were going to take it a step further and not only celebrate athletic accomplishments, but to also celebrate our activities, our academics, everything that we had in school. So you'll see, therefore, in the name, we didn't call it the Hall of Fame for athletics. It's Hall of Fame and Excellence, so that we could include everybody in here. And you'll see one of the companies that we're looking to partner with, I call it Rocket Solutions. We're going to go through that, and their group is really super interesting, and I'll give you a little background when we get to it. But that bylaws that went around to you, just for you to read, take a look over, it gives our purpose, the candidates for membership, how we're going to do things, timelines, and things like that. And Crystal, if you want to go, so the inaugural committee, we have 8 out of the 12 people here. And I'm going to have them stand up when I call their name, except for John, because he can sit over there. But John's, we have a superintendent, obviously, that's at the top of our list. Myself, I don't know how I got in front of you, Brett, but my principal should be in front of me. And our principal, Brett Hooter. Our Hall of Fame chairperson who's not here, Bobby McPherson. Bobby's a longtime Elliott person that went through and graduated from Marshwood. Chris Willett is a former graduate as well. He's going to be our Athletic Hall of Fame liaison. Our non-athletic Hall of Fame liaisons, Denise Brooks, and she's also a Marshwood graduate. Everybody knows Denise. Bobby Pratt is one of the members of our co-curricular staff, is a former graduate. Alan Robershaw is also a former graduate. And Crystal Sprizza is going to fill 2 roles. Crystal's up here. She's going to be part of the co-curriculum. She's also a coach of ours and secretary for our group. Our fundraising coordinators, Susan Casey and Katie Gilpatrick. And community outreach, one of our former principals in the district, Vicki Stewart, and Katie is also going to fill a dual role there too, so thank you. That's our committee so far, so thank you for all the work that they've done. So we started meeting basically in June together as a group and set some guidelines for ourselves and things that we were going to follow. One of the things that we wanted to do was how were we going to display? And we talked to several groups. There were people that put things on walls and have plaques, and we were worried about running out of space and having people find them and see them. A lot of people have gone to digital Wall of Fame, and one thing that we really thought this was going to help us, it's web-based, so you're going to be able to access this from everywhere. This Rocket Solutions company also is a really interesting bunch of people that they're actually Brown University graduates that started this company during COVID. And they are in over 1,800 schools now, as well as colleges. They've done they've done 2 demonstrations, one with me first before I brought it to the group, and then we had a Zoom meeting with them to show them what they could do for us. And before I get to the demo, so you can see kind of what it would look like, what we're going to plan on doing is having a touch screen that's going to be 80 inches up in the main lobby, right outside of the athletic office and the main office. So when people come in, they're going to see a big screen, and there's going to be one of our sign companies is going to do some decorations behind it that's going to make it look super cool and super nice for everybody to come. And again, it's a touch screen, so you're going to be able to go up to it, and you'll see Crystal's going to go to the website right now. And this is what you're going to see when you first walk in. So that's going to be your first screen. You're going to have access to our Twitter account. You're going to have access, if we have any QR codes that we use, that they can access it to. You can hit the Explore button. That's going to enter you in. And the first thing you're going to see is a faculty staff page. You're going to see an alumni page. You're going to see academics. We'll scroll down through, but Crystal, click on the faculty staff. This is a place that we can put all of our staff pictures that are in our school building. And if they click on one of the persons in there, you can either sort through departments and by name and everything, but it's going to give you a little bit of what their area expertise is and give you a little background bio if people want to do it. It's not going to be, we're not going to make the staff do this, but we'll probably have their pictures up with their permission. And if they don't want their picture up there, we'll just put their name and what department they oversee. If you can go back and go to alumni. In the alumni, we have class composites that if we decided to take pictures and have pictures of every single class, like the senior class from 2007, the senior class from 2008, whatever, we can put that in there. The Alumni Hall of Fame would be our people that were the non-athletic people that we select. So if you can click on the Alumni Hall of Fame. And we will have the person, when they graduated, when they were inducted, and what they're doing now, and have their picture on there with their permission. And we can go, if they're in a specific industry, we can list it that way. People can, and you got to picture this when you walk in, if you want to see a class year, like someone from my class, when you're back here for a reunion, you can click on 1998, 1987, whatever, 1953 if you're Brett, and find out where and when. Sorry, Brett. I owe you. If you want to go back for a quick second. Keep going back. Academics. This is a pretty cool one. We can list all our valedictorians over every year that Marshwood's been in existence since 1966. Salutatorians, any National Merit Award Scholar winners. They have Latin honors. This is just a demo. They have Latin honors up here. It could be any of the foreign languages. If we decide to do a Student of the Month, we could do that as well. It could be elected by the faculty. We can go back to athletics, previous page. So There you'd find your Hall of Fame people that were athletic award winners, and if she clicks on that, it'll have the person, what sports they played, what year they graduated, and if you click on, you can do it by sport, but if you click on the person's picture, if you're in the touchscreen mode, it will come up a complete bio on the person. And again, this is web-based, so if you want to do this at home, or if you're in Alaska or wherever you are, you can do this. And if you want to go back, we can also celebrate, keep going to the main screen. If there are people that are professional athletes, Olympians, if we're lucky enough to have any of those, we can list them as well. If you go to arts, those of you who know, we do an art award at the end of the year that is put up in the school. That's something, if we go to artist-owned gallery show, we can put the person's picture up there that they won as the senior that was voted on by the faculty. We can have that up there as well, and their name, and we could even put their year of graduation, so it's pretty cool if you want to go back. To yearbooks, this is super cool too. This company will import all of our yearbooks from 1966 all the way up through. And so you'll be able to come in and choose, if you're a graduate from 1981, click on the 1981 yearbook, and you obviously can find this, you can do this at your house as well. And it will have your yearbook and be able to turn pages like that, which is pretty amazing. And if you want to go back to scholarship award winners, we can have scholarships. We have set scholarships that we do every year, and we meet in the guidance conference room towards the end of the year and vote on people that are going to win scholarships. We can list all the ones that we have by year and by who they were named after if they were a named scholarship. So it's just, I guess the big thing to think of is like technology is just a huge ocean, and we tread in probably the first 3 or 4 feet of it and don't go down very deep, but this is going to allow us to go really super deep and to have a lot of information out there for people to see over the course of time. We can put up videos. If Dave Gratian takes his band to a performance, he'll be able to upload clips of a winning performance up at Westbrook High School, and people can come in and see what the band's been doing. If it's something educationally or something in facilities, we'll be able to, if we're doing something like redoing our tennis courts, we'll be able to take pictures and update the progress and put that up there and show that we've done that. So as you can see, there's just a ton. Also, if you click, what I'd like to go down to is military service. We do a pretty good job of recognizing the people that go off into the military for us, and you can see their pictures that are outside of the main office area. We can do the same here and upload their pictures and when they graduated, what branch of service they fill into. You can do the branches all you want if someone is a certain rank and you want to find out or what year they graduated. So there's a lot of information, things that we can still put up there. The last one I'm just going to show you is donor recognition, because this is going to be important to our alumni group. We can click on people that have donated if they're an annual giver, or if they're, and we would use a form that would get their permission to do this. If they want to remain anonymous, we're going to allow that to happen as well. But we're going to have a donor recognition board in there as well. So just to recognize the people that, we already received, because of word of mouth, a $5,000 donation towards our group. So, and I'll get into more about the cost of what we were looking at for this group over the course of a year and 3 years. So if you go out of that, Crystal, and go back to the regular slides. Just want to go over the goals. See you next slides. The goals were really to promote as many successes as possible, to include athletic and academic success here, have a central location for all award winners, special happenings within our school so they can be displayed and observed, help build a larger and more active alumni base, and that's something that John has talked to us about too, so that's really important to us. Coincide with homecoming activities and celebrate with families and classes from years past. We're going to try to celebrate our inaugural class. Our goal is to do the fall of 2024 and do it every year around homecoming. So when people are coming back, they have something to come back to and celebrate with us. Some of the costs that are associated with Hall of Fame, to get our touch screen up and running and to do our first year, we're looking at approximately $15,000 like that. So that's not an expense that we're going to be incurring yearly. That's going to get us 3 years of service, our touch screen, and some of our supplies like our plaques. Our plan is to give everybody that's inducted into the Hall of Fame and Excellence a plaque with their picture on it and their bio. That will get us off the ground, and then have a little bit of a buffer of $5,000. So if we go and do, one of the things we learned too is to not do, I guess what had been traditional with a lot of places is to have like a sit-down dinner. People said that to go away from the sit-down dinner doesn't allow people to interact as much. So they're talking about having like an appetizer type setup, have people just mingle, and then have a 45-minute ceremony where people are allowed to talk. Person would choose their guest speaker to introduce them, and then that person would talk and accept their award, and we do our thank yous and have the families there. So after that, we're looking at about $3,000 for $2,800 to $3,000 for a 3-year commitment with them per year to run our service up in the atrium area, that they would still upload every year. They'd be uploading a new yearbook, they'd be uploading all our pictures and doing the things for us to keep the website running. So, and we figure our banquets and supplies are gonna be about $1,500 with food and, things that we need to order. And we would look at trying to do a local venue somewhere in our district that, is potentially a Marshwood alumni if we could, and that would be a home base for us as much as possible. Next one is, where do we go from here? So I'd asked John if we could come, present to the board, and so you understand what we were trying to do. We're looking at trying to advertise what we're doing on social media, get it out on Facebook, Instagram, so people are aware that we're going to have a Hall of Fame and Excellence, get it out to print and electronic media to explain the group and the goals, actively solicit nominations for the first class. We're looking at doing that starting in November by our bylaws and go through January 15th. And then our group would come back together in the February-March timeframe to go over the people that we were looking at to elect into the first class, and then fundraise for the equipment and supplies needed for the first year and potentially year 2, seek venue for our induction, which would be next fall when we do our homecoming, notify inductees and families in June of 2024 so they could prep, and if they have to fly in, things like that, bring family members, and then celebrate our first class of inductees September, October 2024. All right, I'm done talking. So that's what we're, and we entertain questions, and we can tell you anything, and people can chime in too that are part of the committee. Joe?
So I do have a question, Richard.
Yeah.
When you talked about all the capabilities of this, it was way more than what I was anticipating you would come in to talk about. I
Yeah.
thought we were going to talk about athletics and
Yeah.
academics and extracurriculars. All of the data that would go into that, it sounds like you said Rocket Solutions would actually upload all of that data for us, and that's all going to live on a Rocket Solutions server somewhere, and that's all part of the $2,800 a year fee, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Heather?
just to add to what Joe just asked. Well, first of all, this is great. It's a lot of hard work went into this, clearly. I'm just thinking in terms of the Rocket Solutions, was there any discussion about like a phase 2? So having a web designing student or using the Sanford Tech to actually build that out. That could easily be built out and maintained in-house. And I was just wondering if that was discussed in the group to save on funds and also making it a part of a learning experience for our students currently.
Yeah, it was not discussed. We went with what some of the people were doing. Again, when I polled a lot of our main schools and New Hampshire schools, and people spoke pretty highly of Rocket Solutions, and we did the demo with them, but we have not talked about experimenting with our students or a Sanford Tech yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that we.
We're not locked in by any means.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just in the future, maybe put that on the table for students to work on, because I think it's an awesome project. Even someone with low-tech skills like myself can do a lot of that
Sure.
in the back end with various website builders, and that would be like a great opportunity for some class to take on. And it also makes you feel part of the community when you're adding to something like
Sure.
that, so.
Sure.
I'm
Good
wondering
point.
though if the data though, like procuring the data is the hard part. It's not necessarily the web design, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like
I
how
would
the
think.
heck would you pull all that information together? You need someone who knows how to go and find all of that
Yeah.
because we can't reach out to every single person who's ever graduated from Marshwood High School and like try to keep up with what they're doing now and then expect that we're gonna keep up with that as they change jobs and all of that. So I'm
Right.
assuming that's why we hire someone.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
Are you also thinking, Heather, that having, like, initially, just what Lisa's saying, there's gonna be a lot to upload. Are you
Yes.
thinking that once the 3 years are over, then we kinda
Download.
manage it more in-house?
Yeah, to give an opportunity, yeah.
Honestly, we haven't talked about beyond 3 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it has to be mutually exclusive. I think that,
Yeah.
you know, the big idea, right, is to do this, but then is there a way to incorporate students to be able to have a piece of this? I think that might be
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
down
that's
the
a
road
great
kind of
idea.
idea. Not
Yeah.
necessarily, it's one or the other. I think
Right.
there's a way to do both.
Right.
True.
Right.
That's,
Good thought.
those are good problems to have.
Yeah, sure,
I think
yeah.
You gotta get the plane off the
Yeah,
ground,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Rich, just for clarity,
Brilliant.
Yep.
you're limiting the class size every year, right, for the number of people that would be inducted?
Correct. Yep. And we did get feedback on that, too.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we heard from many classes, or many schools, on limiting the class size, we were going to start off with, I think it was 10 in our first year, and then go down to 7 in the year after, and then no more than 5. And they said you don't want to burn through too many slots where you have years where you may not have any inductees, you know? So
Yeah.
you wanted to try to go slow. I think we're not going to have a problem in our first year, and we're probably not going to have a problem in year 2, probably not in year 3. But we haven't taken in applications yet. We're going to, we're going to take a look at that. And again, bylaws, can be changed if we feel like it's going to benefit our group, with a majority vote and the proper process, so. But yeah, we are going to limit that first year in year 2 and year 3, as of now, 10.75.
So I just think this is a testament when you have good people and you let them go and create this incredible opportunity for our district. I just want to applaud Rich and the entire group for taking the time to really put a lot of thought into this. There's a lot here. And I think what started off as a smaller project, all of a sudden you see the possibilities about how do you make connections with, if I want to go back and see my yearbook from 1982, like what was that person's name? I can't remember them. Or I have my 35th, graduation anniversary, and I gotta remember these names because I can't remember anything. I mean, like, those are all things I think we've all kind of gone through at times. So just a great opportunity.
And to be inclusive, like our big thing that we really talked about was, it's not just about athletics. We want to be inclusive of people that have gone through our building, that have served in the military, who have been scholars here, who have been teachers that have been longtime people that really poured their heart and soul into the building. And you wouldn't find that in just if we did a Hall of Fame for athletics. The other piece, too, that was interesting, and I had a long conversation with Dennis Walton, who's the Biddeford AD. Biddeford absorbed St. Louis High School back in the 60s or early 70s, somewhere in that vicinity. And I asked him, I said, because we have Old Elliott High School, we have Marshwood High School that came in 1966 as a combination of South Berwick High and Elliott High School. How do we reach out and try to find the people that, because there are people that were part of Elliott High School that are not Marshwood High School people, and there were people, even though I think South Berwick High was only 6 years, there were people there too that probably made a real positive impact that we could celebrate as well. And they did that as part of their group, and what they decided to do was every year they would put in someone from St. Louis High School along with Biddeford High School. So we would look to do the same thing, try to find people from Elliott High School and South Berwick High and try to get at least one person each year into that inaugural class as well.
Cool.
So,
You know what's really cool too is accessibility. Like I don't know how much yearbooks cost over the years, but not all kids were able to afford this. So
Yeah.
this will give another way
Yeah.
for them to have them accessible. Which brings me to another point: is this company ADA compliant with just the access with the site that they're building? Because I don't know how they're uploading things.
Yeah.
That book looked kind of interesting how they
Yeah.
did that. So we just want
It's
to
a-
make sure that we're doing that the right way legally.
Yep,
Um,
that's a good point.
Any other questions or thoughts? Awesome, thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you
No,
all.
thank you
Thank you
guys.
all.
I know you would love to stay for the rest of the board meeting, but please feel free if you'd like to go. I know you're certainly welcome to do that.
Somebody.
Time to get up.
So next on the agenda, I asked Ryan to present to you a little bit about Navigate 360. So
Mhm.
we've talked about this, Navigate 360 is the company that really has bought out in Atlas and is part of Atlas. But it also is a app that we use as part of our security and crisis protocols. And so tonight is really just to kind of give you an idea, like when you talk about Navigate 360, the app, what does that mean? So you might have heard my phone go off during the F&F meeting because there was a training going on. And so that, there's ways to train on that. So I wanted Ryan just to kind of give the board a perspective as to what that really looks like. So.
Thank you.
So just to give a quick background, we used to use an app called Crisis Go. We switched to Navigate 360. Basically, there was 3 different reasons. One was they were the natural partner. Basically, it's the same company that does Alice, so obviously that was great. I think I've showed it before. They came in and did mapped drawings of all the buildings, took pictures of all the classrooms, 360-degree photos. So that was number 2. And number 3 was our crisis plans all kind of lived in paper binders that were up on shelves that were infrequently updated. This allowed us to digitize all of our plans. They're in an app and stored on the website. So if it's not on somebody's computer, when they leave, we lose the crisis plan. Like it lives on a website. So there was really 3 reasons why we switched. The app is fairly straightforward. This is the home screen. For staff who are itinerant between buildings, you can switch their site. There's all the sites that there are listed. RSU 35 and SU 35 is our district office, and then each of the 5 schools. If you are an itinerant staff, you don't have to remember to be in here and say, oh, I'm working at Central School today. If you're on the building list for alerts, you're going to get the alert if you're at the building or not. The only reason you need to switch your site is if you're trying to start an emergency. This is where it's like, if you say, I saw something, I need to make sure I'm in the right school, otherwise you're going to set an alarm off in the wrong school. So I'm just going to put us at the high school because that's where we are right now. So I have some things on here that the staff wouldn't see. Basically, the 3 things that the staff sees is start emergency or start reunification and flip charts. Flip charts are just like little, there's a call list for each building, and then there's this is what clears the halls looks like, and it gives you a quick bulleted list, this is what you should do in this situation. So just a refresher for staff, if there's, this is clear the halls, they know kind of what they're supposed to do. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about start emergency tonight. I'm not going to really get into reunification. Reunification is after the emergency is over. We're probably, if there is an emergency, we're going to have to leave the site and go somewhere else and then reunify with parents, and it's basically that process. So it has the list of all the students in the building and then their trusted adults who can come pick them up from wherever they are. So start emergency, there's several listed emergencies. All have a custom sound that go along with them. And I'm just going to do a fire emergency and start this. There's basically 3 options when you get in here. Not a drill, which is this is the real thing. We're not going to do that. That goes right out to not only all the staff in the building, but also to our emergency services, police, fire. Training, which is what we're going to do tonight, that doesn't actively set off any alarms, but kind of gets you into what it looks like once you're in an alarm. And then a drill is obviously if we were doing a drill in a practice. So we're going to do a training and say start. So that kind of does this little update. Everybody at this point, if it was a real alarm, it would be like a really loud siren sound. Right at the top, dial 911. As I've shared it when I've gone out and trained at the schools, kind of crazy. Everyone knows how to dial 911. You're using a phone, like just call 911. You don't need to go into an app to dial 911, but it's there. First thing we tell staff to do is once you are in a safe place. So do not try to, if you're not in a safe place, you're not pulling out your phone and trying to access and do things. Once you're into a safe place, please go in, kind of like the example they used when we did the full training was, you're like an adult on an airplane with an oxygen mask. Like you're gonna put your oxygen mask on first, and then you're gonna take care of your students. So in this case, you're just gonna come in, you're gonna mark you're safe. This is in real time, so we're in the high school, Principal Hoop pulls up, I just marked I'm safe. He can see immediately I've been marked safe and I'm in a good place. He can pull up rosters of all the staff and say, this person's marked safe, this person says I'm not safe, or this person, there's also a blue icon there, I don't know if you can read that, it says I'm not there. So if I'm sitting at home watching The Price is Right and I hear the alarm go off, I can pull out my phone and say I'm not there today, and it just kind of removes you from the list. So each teacher, if they're loaded into Infinite Campus with class rosters, have a roster. So where it says select your roster, you can come in here. I'm not going to actually click on any of these rosters because we're going to have student names up, which we don't want to do. But I think for whatever reason, I mean, great works, whatever. But the top teacher is Mrs. Cuddy, who is the art teacher. She can just select, this is my roster. All of her students would then populate on a list, and she can say, yes, they're here, they're not here. If, for whatever reason, Mrs. Cuddy marks all of her students, and then she's walking out of the building, and little Johnny comes out of the bathroom, and she can grab him as they go. She can go down to the bottom where it says Add Custom Roster, and a full alphabetized list of all the students in the building would pop up, and she can say, okay, I've got all my class, and then I've also got little Johnny. Again, this all updates in real time. I didn't mark any students, but as you see, there's a student list. As they get accounted for, that populates, and you'd be able to just go right down and say, yep, I've got 297 kids, and they're all accounted for or not accounted for. And as you go down, you can see there's teaching staff, not teaching staff. So it's everybody's checking in. It's all happening in real time in an app. This is accessible not only to the building staff, but also the central office staff. So we have a command center if there's an actual emergency. Everybody can kind of be monitoring what's going on. We've trained our staff not to use the missing button. So what we've found when we were doing some practicing is if a teacher does not have a student in class and they mark them missing, but let's say that student is out getting reading support with a different teacher who then marks them safe, depending on who's makes their way into the app first. If a teacher marks them safe and then another teacher marks them missing, they stay missing even though they've already been marked safe. So we've trained our teachers not to use the missing.
Yeah.
That would be more for administrators as you kind of start looking down your list and we can't find these kids, then we mark them missing. So that's basically how it works. In the top right corner, there's a little text bubble. Folks can send each other messages back and forth inside the app if they'd like to. But that's basically just a quick overview of how the app works. Like I said, I didn't want to get into too much of the student stuff just because of FERPA and that type of stuff. But does anybody have any questions?
Not a question.
Good.
So we've used this now for all of our drills this year, and teachers are really doing a great job where they go out and they start to click who they have with them, say for a fire drill. The first couple drills we did was in transition of our vocational students returning. So they were not marked present at the drill, but I was able to meet them as they got off the bus and mark them present.
That's cool.
That is
And so anybody can do it. And the last drill we did was on the in-service day, just what Mr. Cormier said, that we did a drill because we wanted to practice communicating with each other. So we started and initiated the drill and started to chat with each other back and forth for, hey, I've got Johnny, or our site, we're down here, or whatever they needed to share as a way to kind of dig into the app.
I have a quick question for you. Like when they're coming off the bus, was there like a search button where you could just type their first name?
I
My
have-
gosh, to grow.
I have access in 3 categories. I have those who are accounted for and those who are not, and as well as staff. So I can click on it and say we have 80 kids not accounted for. So I have that entire roster, so when those 30 kids got off the bus, I was able to click, 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 click through.
Okay, but you couldn't search at them?
You can. They're
You
all
can.
searchable. Yep, first name, last name.
Yep.
Oh, God, that's what I would need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is it by time? So obviously the class has changed, so is it real time? So you would say,
So it-
I'm in period, period 3 or whatever.
The way it's
How does
supposed to
that
work, I'm not gonna guarantee that it happens every night, but almost every night it goes in, looks in our Infinite Campus, which is our student information system, and it updates all the rosters. So if a student
Oh,
changes
wow.
classes or anything like that, they are
Wow.
immediately moved
Nice.
when it does that sync overnight.
Wow.
I think it's usually around 1 AM is when it does it, so it just kind of happens overnight. But it keeps that app updated and hopefully fresh.
So I'm really trying to show you a lot of the things that are happening, but
Yeah.
there's more to it than just, we have an app in case there's an emergency.
Right.
These are
Yeah.
all, like, this is the weed, so to speak, and so
Yep.
they're
Sure.
gonna be able to show you, like, how does it actually apply? Why is it a benefit for the
This is going to wind up being a
district?
stupid question, and I'll apologize in advance. I'm imagining, so the training has to have included this, right, with the staff, is in an actual emergency, Ms. Chemistry teacher suddenly has a fire in the chemistry lab, right? So like, get the students out of the room, get yourself out of the room, and then pull out the app and,
So what we've been saying for a fire, for example, I
Yeah.
went to a fire, maybe that wasn't the best example, but we have fire poles in all the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a fire, you just exit the building and you're gonna pull that fire pole, and that's how you're gonna let everyone know. You
Yep.
probably don't need to send out
no,
an app.
they're not relying on
But
the
maybe
app.
we can use the app to do the rostering after
Okay,
the fact.
yep, yep, yep.
But like if there's a fire, you're gonna pull the fire alarm, because we have systems
Yeah.
already in
And
place
the
to do
reunification is
that.
the other part. So it's
Right.
getting people out, getting them accounted for, then getting them
Yep.
back in. Those, there's like a three-part process.
And if a fire drill was pulled in the F pod, a teacher in A pod can start the drill.
Right,
Because we're headed out, so we're on a fire drill.
yep, got it.
Most staff have it on their phone, so if, like, let's say we have an elementary person out at recess and they see what they think is a suspicious person out in the parking lot or whatever.
Okay.
They could immediately start an emergency that would go into the school and let people know, so like it's really like
Wow.
another tool that we have to be able to manage those emergencies. It's not the end-all be-all, but it's just another tool that we have.
So
If
take-
there was an actual emergency, I think standard protocol in all the buildings would be to do an all-call
Yeah.
from the office, letting everyone know there's whatever going on. But, again, this would just be another tool that we have.
So take this summer, we had the situation where the Elliott Police Department contacted us and they had to bring some trucks in, some police vehicles into the middle school.
Mhm.
So imagine that we have students out in the parking lot at that point. So that would be the opportunity to say, we need to move all students out of the parking lot, now move them to the baseball field. So you can send that messaging, people can get, rather than like
Yeah, yeah.
walkie-talkies,
Yeah,
yelling,
yeah.
hey, go here,
Okay.
they can get that, and then we can move people. So it
Yeah.
allows kind of that, if you have to transition from one site to another, if there's a fire, we need to be back 500 feet from the building, we need to move everybody back to the snack shack.
Okay.
On those types of things as well.
So you can like free text with the update, what the
Yes.
details. So when you say an alert, an alarm, is that on the device like
So
alerts?
it's
can-
really funny that you should ask that, because one of the things we've learned with folks that have smartwatches is on an iPhone and an Apple Watch, if you have your notifications push for this app out to your watch, it doesn't alarm your phone. It just gives you a notification on your wrist.
Okay.
Now, your notification on your wrist is not a siren, it's not a loud, it's just either,
Buzz.
if you've got silent on your, it's just a quick buzz. And
Right.
so what I've been trying to teach people as we go out is now you need to shut off notifications on your watch, because you really want it to come through on the phone where you get that nice loud alarm sound, so it's a real alert versus, it could just be a text message or an email that you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really give you that, it's an emergency, like, sound.
And then can you silence it in the room if you need to?
It only lasts about 5 seconds.
Okay, it's not like a constant,
No.
okay,
And you can't miss it.
okay.
I mean,
But
it's-
then you can silence it.
What?
The other thing is why is this important practice? So for instance, at the high school, with evacuation plans, we found that the internet wasn't strong enough outdoors as
Yeah.
we got down towards the field. So now we have to, okay, now what do we need to do to rectify that problem? Like
Right.
another emergency, so we had to update the Wi-Fi, towards
Down
the
there.
stadium. So,
Yep,
you know.
smart.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Mr. Gratian is gonna play you a quick sample, just like, this is what the sound,
in the room, okay, that's what you're,
that would
okay.
be everyone's
It's on
phone,
your phone.
it's on your
Okay.
phone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, if a teacher doesn't bring the phone to school or use their phone during the class day, like, it would be okay, like if you evacuate the building and you would have your neighbor that had a phone and you could take your class attendance on
Yes.
their app, right?
Yep.
But the
absolutely.
expectation is that they have a device with them, so either they put it on their phone, and that's their choice, but if they choose not to put it on their phone, we give them an iPad, which we can put it on, and the expectation is that they would have that with them. So like that,
Oh.
that's kind of part of the crisis planning, so.
Oh,
But if for whatever reason they were out of their classroom, left their phone on their desk, and they evacuated the building with their class with
Yeah.
no phone,
Can
they
use
can,
somebody
they can
else's.
use
Yeah.
somebody else's.
Yeah.
They can check themselves in as a staff member, and they can check in their class with someone else. That is
So
possible.
all those old pre-K laptop, iPads from years ago, we repurpose those now to provide for staff who don't have the access, so they can do it.
yeah, yeah. Does each classroom like have, I know back in the day, we used to have backpacks with like the blankets and the whatever.
Go
flash-
buckets.
Yeah,
Go
do you have those?
We have
in-
Go buckets,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah. And
Right.
so is that iPad's right in there or something like that?
No, it
Oh.
has to be charged, so
Oh.
it stays right on there and it's fully charged, but like, that's more like, we have a gallon of water, we have, 24, cheese and cracker snack packs, we have Band-Aids,
Yeah,
we have a
that's
curtain, a little bit of toilet paper, like those types of.
It's not cheese and crackers, just for our
Yeah.
allergy-friendly folks.
Yeah, yeah,
It's-
it's whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so cheese and cracker
Get it.
sounded good right about now, so anyway,
Yeah.
that's another conversation, so. All right. Awesome.
you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ryan.
you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is just, if you have any topics that you'd like me to put on the agenda for our November 15th board workshop, which is our second meeting in November with the Rollinsford Board, please just share those with Joe, and then we can start to kind of build that workshop. Remember, that's a workshop, not an executive session, so we'll have just an open meeting prior to
Yeah.
our regular meeting.
And we've asked them for a list of topics.
Lou and I are going to work on that.
Yeah,
You're working on
great,
that with
great.
the board as well.
Great.
Next, something I'm really excited about, and I know I've said this a number of times, but I've met with the high school and the middle school, and really with the idea of, as I've said to you before, I feel like we do a really good job of communicating information, but I don't know how often we do listen. So how do we create those opportunities to be able to hear feedback from families? And so I met with some school counselors, and they've created a survey to provide for families. I really wanted to focus on the college process, college and career process, and really talking to families about what are we doing? Did you take advantage of these things? Is this a good form of communication? What could we do better? And so this was sent out to all of our senior families. And so something, again, just really working hard to be able to provide that or get that feedback from families as well. Because obviously this is one of those big moments in a child's life. We're going to do the same survey or similar survey in March with the juniors. We were going to do them both together, but we felt like holding off until the springtime would be a little bit more appropriate for the juniors. And so I just wanted to share this with you. I think it's it's great work by Kyle. I think basically wrote the survey for this part. But she and Lindsay Essen is who I met with, so I appreciate them going above and beyond to do this. So just want to share it with you.
And this has gone out?
This has gone out. It's been out about a week now.
Okay.
Last Thursday, I think when last we spoke, there was around 45 responses, so it's about 25% return rate. I'm sure there's more since then. But we put it on we went from the website. We just want to make sure people are aware of it. There's an opportunity to kind of get feedback. The goal is that, so the funny thing about feedback is that once you get it, now what are you going to do with it? And so the goal is to be able to say, okay, so if we're talking about college planning, this is what the school's going to provide. This is what the student needs to do. This is what the family needs to do. So you kind of delineate clear planning for people so they can understand what the expectations are and how we can be helpful, but also kind of give them some advice about these are some things that you may want to be doing on your own as well. So that's the ultimate goal with this.
Great.
Great, thank you very much. Just have some dates for our Veterans Day activities. Marshall Middle School is November 3rd. And then Marshall Great Work School is November 9th. I believe that both start at 9 a.m. So if you're interested in going, please certainly I'll confirm those dates, at those times with you, pardon me.
Yeah, the board has gotten an email invite for the November 3rd one.
I think Chris Beason said it out last night.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep, 100%. So, and then the last thing on my agenda is we had a conversation at the last board meeting about we tried to have this transition coach position, couldn't really find the right match for it. I really identified 3 areas of concern. Again, how do we communicate better and listen with our families? What do we do with students who may have substance abuse infractions? How do we manage that? How do we, you can't detention someone not to do something sometimes, right? You have to be able to create that therapeutic, that supportive, that, different mindset around health and wellness type of activities. And then the other is kind of the ever-growing demand that's being placed on 504s. And so 504s around those disabilities could be a number of different things. It could be someone who would have a 504 for allergic to bee stings, where that's pretty cut and dry, or it could be someone who has a processing disorder who didn't qualify because of the adverse effect, but it still impacts their ability to get their education, so there's accommodations put in place. So 504s is a pretty wide range of things, but that's growing steadily, and so that's an issue that we need to address. And so after a lot of work, I've met with all the school counselors, I've met with the principals, I've gotten advice from our attorneys. I've kind of come up with what I think is the right move, and so let me share with you what that is. What I am proposing, and I would like to post with your permission, is the money's already in the budget, is a 504 facilitator, and they're not the coordinator, because the 504 coordinator is our director of special services. I want to be clear, like, he still will oversee that. The case management will still happen at the building level, but this is a person who would go and facilitate every meeting in the district with 504s. They would also manage students who may be 504 eligible, and just being able to communicate with those families and making our FAPE requirements in place. In addition to that, we would ask them to be a community engagement coordinator. And so what would that be? There's pretty clear guidelines in the job description about holding family events, being able to gather family information, be able to work with students, and ultimately my goal would be to help facilitate the implementation of a Marshwood Alumni Association. That's where I would like to be in the end. And so those three things all fall under that job. So that takes care of the 504 concerns that I had. It helps in part with the communication concerns. The therapeutic substance use and abuse situation will be managed now through the counselors. And so we're taking some of that off the plate with the 504 responsibilities are being lightened because they're not going to be coordinating those meetings any longer, even though they will still be the case managers. But now they're going to be doing a 3 to 4 meeting process anytime a child may have a substance issue that occurs in school or even outside of school to be able to help with that. So that's the goal. And there's kind of a trade-off there. The other part is that I also feel like, I know I mentioned this 2 weeks ago, and forgive me for repeating myself, but Choose to Be Healthy Coalition is a great resource for us, and I don't feel like we're accessing it as much as we should be. And so part of this now is that there will be a counselor from middle school and high school at every Choose to Be Healthy meeting going forward.
Good.
So we're making sure we're accessing all of those resources and bringing them back to the school. And so that's a really important component of this. So that's what my desire is. I wanted to bring it to you today to share your thoughts. As I said, the money is in the budget. This is a different narrative than I shared with you during the budget season. Part of that is as I explained, trying to find that transitions person, trying to find that wellness person. It was really tricky. And so the community outreach might look like this. If we're going to meet with all 5th grade parents and have a 5th grade parent night, let's just say in March. And the idea around that would be like, what are your fears about your child transition to Marshall Middle School? Let's start gathering that information. What are those things that are out there? How could we be supportive? We're really listening. Could we be listening to students with the same type of questions? Taking that data, giving it to Marshall Middle School, allowing them to customize and evolve our 6th grade orientation to be able to better service those kids. Then at the same time, let's just say November. We're going to take those same 6th grade students and those same parents and say, how did it go? So you've been at Marshall Middle School for 3 months now, you've transitioned, you've had your first report card. What are things that we can do better? What are things that we were helpful with? And just trying to be able to build that communication so we can better customize what the needs are. So we think we know what the kids need, but sometimes you need to ask, because then it's the things you can hit you in the head, you're like, I never thought of that. That's a great point. So that's kind of the big idea, doing that with those major transitions. So 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, 8th grade to 9th grade. And kind of tying that all together.
One question.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I think of the 504 facilitator, I guess what are you looking for that piece of the position? Because typically that person would not only organize the 504 meeting, but would also create the the plan, get collaboration from other folks. I'm just wondering how much is it actually going to relieve the counselors if they're no longer in that piece? And
So-
so who, are you looking for a certified sped teacher or?
No, I
what?
think there's no certification required, and so what exactly you just said is what they'll be doing. But one of the concerns that we have as a district is that, A, consistency from building to building. And so we need to have one voice to say, this is the proper way to do a 504. So sometimes we don't want to over-accommodate things, right? So we want to be really specific with our accommodations, be able to foster that transition from building to building. Because sometimes a parent might go and hey, this is how they did it at LA Elementary School, and all of a sudden they're sitting in a 504 meeting at Marshall Great Works School, and it's totally different. And they're like, wait a second, this isn't how we did it there, and we talked about these things, and so this person can help transition that. The stress it takes off the counselors is they're struggling with having that dual role of being, let's just take the Marshall Great Works School. So they're a school counselor, they're a crisis interventionist, they're really a classroom teacher for those students for 10 weeks a year. And then all of a sudden being in a meeting where you're a facilitator, and a lot of times having to push back and say, no, we're not doing that. Like that's a different level. So that conflict is a big stressor for them. So being able to identify that, taking that part off the place to allow them to be kind of more that student-centered, student support role is much more comfortable. And so talking to them, that was the one thing that they asked for. If you could do one thing, is taking that part off the plate. No pushback at all about being the case managers, because there needs to be someone in the building to say, look, if there's trouble, I want to be able to intervene, I want to be able to have a conversation. But having that facilitation ability is really going to be the big part. So for them, that was it. Any questions? I mean, we put a lot of work into this just to try to make sure it makes sense. And how do we maximize resources? Like that's the big idea. And better meet the needs of our families and our students. Any thoughts? My goal would be just to be able to get, I don't think we need to vote by any means, the money's already been voted into the budget, but just my goal would be to post this.
Yeah.
Now,
It's going to be
I
hard.
don't
to find
know, right? I
someone.
mean, you just never know. We got to find the right
Yeah.
person. I
Right.
mean, let's just say hypothetically, if it were a staff member within the district, we wouldn't pull that person out of the classroom to start this position. We would want to make sure that we took care of the classroom is that critical part, and we would have to make the timing work for us. I think part of this is also for the counselors is that we have asked so much, and we've made so many systemic changes around what that role is that this was really hearing them. This was a stressor, and I was clear on this. This was not changing, but when the FAPE part kind of came into play, that's when the scale on the 504 piece really changed for me. And so trying to be a good listener and hear what my staff has to say, at the same time knowing that, frankly, we've been pushing really hard with our school counseling. We've invested a lot of resources into really trying to create that program that we all want. And so this is the next step in the process as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the pay scale is the same as the
Teacher.
paraprofessional. Oh, a teacher,
contract.
but no teacher certification required.
There would be a teacher certification required,
Oh.
but we would have some ability. Sure, it would, ideally, if a social worker applied, awesome. If a school counselor applied, awesome. If a teacher applied, awesome, But it's not necessarily, we have some flexibility with that because it's kind of a unique position. Obviously, when the person would get the job, there would be a great deal of training that would have to go into that to be prepared to be able to facilitate that, and to have to work with Director Rooning to be able to get those skills up to par. Similar in a lot of ways to how Andrea works within the buildings about facilitating those meetings for the elementary schools at times, and very similar to how Rollinsford handles their 504s. They have a 504 coordinator that even though we have the students in our building, they come over and really, have that facilitator role for those students. So.
That's not the director of special services or?
No, it's a separate, it's,
separate person.
yeah, it's the school counselor, actually, who comes over and does the 7 through 12 504s. So, is everybody okay? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yes.
Okay.
I hope it works out. It's a good pivot from where we had a plan and it didn't work. This is a
Yeah.
good pivot.
No, to find the person, we'll see how that
Right,
goes.
right.
That's the next challenge. Student report.
All right, so for sports, football team beat Westbrook 20-14 on the 6th. The next week they lost against Noble 33-20. The Hawks play Kennebunk this Friday. Should be an exciting game. And for boys soccer, boys lost to Gorham 5-0. They beat Sanford 3-1. Their senior night was the 12th, and they took the huge win against Thornton Academy. It was the determining game of whether or not they were going to make it to the playoffs, and they played really great. They lost to Portland 2-0 last night, but they played their hearts out. The boys will be seeing Scarborough either Friday or Saturday for their first playoff game. For girls soccer, the girls are headed to playoffs. The Lady Hawks beat Massabesic 4-1, then played in a tough game against Wyndham on the 6th, losing 4-2. Girls played the top seed Scarborough on the 9th and held them at 2-1 for the majority of the game, but unfortunately lost 5-1. The girls played Bonnie Eagle and lost, but they were able to celebrate their seniors last night against Gorham at their last home game. They finished with a record of 5-9, and they'll see the Chevres either this Friday or Saturday for their first playoff game. For field hockey, on the 5th, they beat South Portland 5-0. They then lost on the 11th, 5-1 against Biddeford. They lost 2-0 against Noble on the 13th, but they were able to pull through with a win last night against Wyndham 4-2. They'll continue in playoffs this season, and they're scheduled to play Massabesic this Friday. Volleyball, the girls won in a really exciting 5-set game against South Portland on the 5th. They unfortunately lost 3-1 against Thornton Academy on the 10th. They did win their senior night game against Noble on the 12th, 3-0, but unfortunately lost their game on Monday against Kennebunk 3-0. The girls will continue practicing for the next few weeks, but they did not make the playoffs and their competitive season is over. As for student government, the committees are breaking off to start some of the tasks. The Student Life Group is working on planning the day before winter break. They're working with the Civil Rights team to make it an inclusive and fun day for everyone, regardless of the religion or holiday that they celebrate. Student Gov is also working on making an easy-to-read calendar that has all the sports as well as extracurricular activities, meeting dates, and times. Next week, Student Gov will start delivering the morning announcements to make them more direct and personal. Student announcements will inform the student body about school events, fundraisers, historical happenings, mental health awareness, and club and athletics updates. An email was sent out to some club overseers earlier today to build representation of student involvement.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, extracurriculars, as Jen said, they're huge right now. So October is a pretty busy month with the quarter ending the first week of November. This year on Halloween, the school is putting on a Halloween costume contest. So each advisory is going to submit a winner, and then that winner will be then submitted into a bigger group winning of the whole school. And then that person is going to be entered into the yearbook as the superlative winner, which will be really fun. Interact Club meets tomorrow. They will be helping this Saturday at the Elliott Town Cleanup from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Trick-or-treating for cans is also a huge event that year, each year. So fellow interactors will walk around Old Mill and Agamenticus. Costumes are a must. All cans collected will be donated to the food pantry through the Rotary Club. Civil Rights Team is all hands on deck for the day of welcome on November 3rd. So that's just going to be a day of trying to get people more involved with Civil Rights Team and know what they're all about. They got a donation from Dunkin' Donuts. So they're going to have some donuts donated, and they're going to have a banner up, and that should be really fun. Let's see. GSA is still working on planning a dance and event in November for students, so more to come on that. ELF is finishing up their rehearsals. Their opening night is on November 10th, and they have 5 other shows that will be on the 11th, 17th, and an afternoon and a night show on the 18th. So start to pre-order your tickets now. Marching band did phenomenal at their last performance. They received 4 stars in drum major, and finals will be next Saturday on the 28th at Sanford. 14 people are auditioning for the District Festival for Band, so more to come on that as well. As for math team, 5 members traveled to Kennebunk High School on the 4th to compete in their first conference meet. A cumulative 81 points were earned, with Jack Dalton earning top scorer with 10 points. The Hawks are currently ranked 9th in the medium school division and have their next meet on November 1st at Trape Academy. Quiz Bowl is one of Marshwood's newest and most exciting extracurriculars. The team has had a relatively low availability for the past 2 meets, only having a team of 5 out of 6. Though the next new meet on November 4th in Augusta has enough people to fill 2 whole teams, so that's really exciting. In their first meet at Wyndham, the Hawks came 4th overall, with Mackie Bowe placing 5th individually, which is huge. And in their second meet at Plymouth Regional High School, the Hawks placed 4th in the B bracket with James Foss with 10th overall. So super fun and
Nice.
exciting.
What does GSA stand for?
Gender, sexual.
Oh, okay, yeah, and that's the dance for
Yeah.
November.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that concludes my report.
Great.
Thank you. That moves us into correspondence. We have received none upon which to report, so we'll move to the report of the committees. Finance and Facilities met earlier this evening. I'll do the numbers and a quick facility update, and then Heather will give us the transportation, food service, and other stuff. We're right where we expected to be in terms of revenues and expenditures. So with a 3 payroll month behind us and some early year one-time expenditures, revenues are a little bit behind expenditures, but where we expected to be. And that we have a general fund cash balance at the end of September that's just a shade above $1 million, and that will move up over the course of the next month or so. Adult education, we have a second quarter payment due, and that's expected to bring us back into the positive or nearly so. Food service showed a slight profit in September and is continuing along that trend. Something like 70% of our students are actually getting lunches, which is awesome. Federal grants, we've started to make expenditures, no reimbursements yet, so that will catch up over time. Sort of like the revenue expenditure method report, there's a boiler payment in there that under facilities and maintenance that pushes us a little bit higher than last year, but again, still all right where we expect it to be. Yeah, I think adult education, we're expecting a one-time subsidy payment that'll get us back into the positive, and that will then be the glide slope for the rest of the year. That's pretty much all I have on the numbers. Facilities, the Gaga Ball Pit at Elliott Elementary is now completed and in use, and Todd insisted that it was fun to use, so we have to all check that out. The generator here at the high school is broken down. It's currently not working. There's a meeting, I think tomorrow we said, right, with the York County Emergency Management folks, because it's kind of a joint project since our high school is a York County shelter in case of an emergency, region-wide emergency. So a course of action as to how to get that repaired and or replaced will be determined at that meeting tomorrow. The generator project at the middle school is complete, and that's now online, which is awesome. And Todd met with the arborist this morning on the tree work to be performed at the high school to allow for the installation of the Project Adventure equipment. So that's coming along as well. Heather, you can go ahead.
Yeah,
Thank
sure
you.
thing. Transportation update. So the wheelchair van that we had ordered quite a bit ago has been delayed again due to some production issues over in California. So we were supposed to receive it in September, but we're going to need to rent out a van that meets this need for a few weeks until we receive the one that we ordered. So let's just we're going to expect that it arrives in a couple weeks anyway. We are currently in the process of training 2 more bus drivers. It takes about 3 to 6 months to onboard drivers, and we have 1 more bus position open, and the transportation director position will be posted soon in December, probably mid-December-ish. So, because Heather from the current transportation director will be retiring. In terms of the food service update, the team met with the director for food services. It looks like we're still working on hiring, or we have hired 2 individuals, but there are 3 open positions. So obviously we still have 1 position in food services to fill. The planning has started for the district wellness event, which will be November 20th, 6 to 7:30 p.m. So they're all working hard on those fun events to get the community together and promote wellness and health. Same thing. Energy efficiency recycling initiatives. The new special recycling cans have been delivered for the stadiums. However, we've are working to install those safely, so that we should expect to see those recycling units out soon. The lighting project is just about 99% complete. At CES, Great Works School, Marshwood Middle School, EES. We'll start in the next week or so. The solar farm is up and running, which is great. So we'll start to see some of those credits soon on our bills. Great. And that's it. Yep.
Very cool. I guess the good news from the staffing on food service is that the deli station at the middle school is now up and running, and that's, everybody's excited about that. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, comments or questions about that report? No? Ed policy next meets on the 25th. We have 2 policies up for second read tonight, so we'll get to those shortly. And the next meeting of the Wellness and SEL Committee is November 1st, which is in 2
Can I
weeks.
just make a comment on that?
You may, of course,
So
absolutely.
we have confirmed November 20th, 6 o'clock, we will have, kind of, I'm gonna use the word open house. Then at 6:30 to 7:30, Carolyn Eastman from Pine Tree will be here to kind of do the presentation, so we can start to kind of fill in the gaps. What we want that to look like, but that is exciting news.
That's
Great.
good. So it'll be the topic of the next wellness meeting.
Yes.
Excellent. That concludes the report of the committees and brings us to new business. May I have a motion, please, to approve that second reading of the naloxone policy?
I move to approve the second reading and adoption of policy JLCDB, naloxone, Narcan in schools.
Second, Rebecca.
Rebecca, thank you. Second read, no change from the first read. Comments or questions? I think we're all good on this, yes? All in favor? 5-0, thank you, that's great. And may I have a motion, please, with regard to JLCD?
I move to approve the second reading and adoption of policy JLCD, administration of medication to students.
Second, Jen?
Jen, thank you. Again, no changes, just as a second read. Quickly read through it. Comments or questions? All in favor? That is also 5-0. Great, thank you. And we have, may I have a motion, please, to approve a donation of supplies?
I move to consideration and action to approve the donation of Dungeons and Dragons supplies totaling $285.95 from Chromatic Dragon Games for Marshwood Middle School.
Second, Lisa.
Lisa, thank you. Did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, so,
Intrigued. I'm intrigued.
yeah, so this is fun. That's why I put it on there. So I know that the $500, threshold was not met, but I just think this is the type of thing that you talk about often. Like, what are we doing to get kids into the building, doing fun things? And so, I think, is the name 3D?
I wrote down 2D. It's Dodgeball and Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be a great night.
So the next Wednesday night, is that right?
Yes, where do I have it? Yes, next Wednesday, yep.
Yes, next
Dodgeball, Dungeons and Dragons.
Nice.
So, something different, but so that's why I put it on there, and it just, again, trying to give a wide variety of opportunities for
Yeah,
kids.
love
And
it.
so,
Love that.
we'll go from there.
Great.
Sounds great. Any questions or comments? All in favor? 5-0, thank you very much. That concludes our new business and brings us to building administrator check-in. Who wishes to go first?
We rock, paper, scissors.
Good evening. I've just got 3 short things I want to mention today. Today was our first night of parent-teacher conferences, and we'll certainly continue that next Thursday. But one of the things we did unique today was we had our career counselor, Kyle Lontine, offer presentations for senior parents about this college process. So I sat in on one of them today, and it was really good. It was really good of all the things that she laid out, things to expect, timelines, what to do now, what to wait till to do in the spring, and it was great. And so when I was walking out, I caught a parent who was looking at a first-generation student in their family, and I said, "Tell me if that helped." And she was very informative, but now I'm more scared. Because there's so much information.
Sure.
And Kyle was great. She's like, "I know this is a lot. I know it's heavy, we'll get through it, but I want you to kind of see how things work. We'll work together and we'll get you that place. Don't panic on the information I'm giving you. So it was really, really great.
That's awesome.
I know I talk about NEASC, it seems, every time I stand up here, but I got to throw it in here one more time. They are coming in less than a month. We've laid out all the logistics for their trip, where they're staying, with their meals, and we've set the agendas for them to be able to meet with teachers, steering committees, students, parents, some of you, and it's all kind of fallen in place. We've uploaded our self-assessment into the NEASC portal, so they have that now, and they're basically coming to talk with kids, look at what we've put down, validate what we've done, and then help us move forward with those goals. So they're coming the night of Sunday the 12th, and then they'll be here those 2 days, the 13th and 14th. It's a big deal. That's probably why I keep talking about it, but it's really helped our staff in the last year really kind of come together and put us in a one direction motion. So sorry I bring it up every time, but it's that big
It is
deal.
important. We want to hear about it.
Yeah.
The last thing is something I kind of need your help with. A teacher approached me today. As you know, we had 24 students from Denmark visit us last week, and it was great. Kids were great. They got to start their tour in New York City and see some sites there like Ground Zero or Times Square, whatever. Then they landed here with host families, and they didn't just come shadow our kids. They went through some pretty rigorous teaching moments in how our government and their government and how they compare and so on. I sat in some of those classes. It was really awesome. Mr. Sanzone ran a couple of those with Mr. Livingston. But Mr. Livingston came to me and he said, "Can we send a group there?" And I said, "I don't know, because if we had a French teacher come to us and say, I want to take a dozen kids to France to learn the culture, we kind of have nothing to do with it. Like, you can do it, but you got to run this through the EF Foundation. And you got to do it during, school breaks, and we don't want to touch the insurance. We don't want to, so they kind of do it on their own. This is a little different, but the same. So he's asking me to ask you, do we want to explore this and send kids to Denmark in the spring and potentially do this every other year? And I said, you got to give me more, Josh. It can't just be a trip to Denmark to see what it's like. He said, it's so much more, and I didn't understand, but I'm going to use words, I had to write them down. He said, there's a Reisenstein program there in Copenhagen where 10 different countries come in, and they have like a mini United Nations for 2 days. And I said, now that's cool. And they're looking at the 5 days in April, after April break, and looking to figure out what it might look like if we were to do this. And I said, before we do anything, I've got to figure out if this is something that we would endorse as a school district, or maybe we want to keep our hands clean, because I don't know that answer.
So we have a policy on field trips that this would apply to, and so Josh has asked me about it as well, and so just, I think probably if, conceptually, I think that's something that you would all support, so it'll give us an opportunity to kind of put our ducks in a row and kind of put a presentation together and work with Josh a little bit to see what that looks like. Is that a fair assessment?
It is, absolutely.
Here, here, yeah.
It's such a great educational opportunity. We hosted some Denmark students when they came several years ago, and it was just fascinating. And because of that visit, we all just went, Jack, we was host, so we just went to over there to visit and spent quite a few days in Copenhagen and visited all the sites and learned a lot and talked to a lot of people and really learned a lot more because the seeds had been planted with some of those conversations, political conversations, even education, how they handle education is a little bit different than we do. Everybody has a gap year, like it's very interesting in so many ways. So I just think this is brilliant and
And for me, the difference is that model United Nations. Bringing all these countries together to work collaboratively for 2 days. That's where, to me, it kind of goes beyond, it's just a trip.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yes, we hosted last year as well, and there is sort of a richness in like the exchange program, or where like we sat with our students, and the high school age, they did just sort of sit in like a group of teenagers having dinner, but then talking about politics
Yeah.
and talking about education and how it works. So
Yeah.
some of that unstructured stuff that really like
Not gonna
allows
get
for
that.
the cultural exchange
Yeah.
is, yeah.
Are you
important.
thinking like they would stay with families? Like
Yeah,
that-
home students,
okay,
yeah.
Yeah.
They would
Yeah.
do, they would
I
do
think that's
similar, they
important.
would do the first couple nights, staying in, he called them hostels.
Yep.
Which sounds bad, but it's not. They're hotel rooms with 8 beds in them.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
And then they would see the sights, and they'd visit museums, and then they would stay with a host family and stay with the schools, be in the schools, and 2 of those 3 days would be that United Nations.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a wonderful life-changing experience for whatever kids or however many kids that we could possibly get on that trip. And I think, here to Mr. Livingston for continuing to go above and beyond over these many years to make this coordination effort. And I think, we as a community really need to support him in this endeavor because it's just a wonderful opportunity, not only for the student traveling, but for the families that have experienced it, the host families. Yeah.
Yep.
Great, thank you.
So I'm gonna give him the thumbs up
2 thumbs up, yeah.
and have him basically put together a presentation perhaps for a month from now.
Yep.
And show kind of that United Nations video he showed me, because when I saw that, I went, oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is
And why doesn't
something.
he meet with you and I before?
Sure,
Just so,
yeah.
because I want to go through the district policy. At the same time, I think we want to reach out to our insurance company, like there's just some legality-wise things that we want to make sure we have our ducks in a row.
Of course.
The only red flag I have, and I'm not trying to be, negative, but anytime you do this, you have to, like, who goes, who doesn't
Yep.
go, like, so there's some details that we would have to work out.
Yep.
That week after April vacation is a tough week because that's going to exclude kids right off the bat.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's choices in life, and this is a
Yes.
good opportunity, but I just think those are the things we got to work through some details.
Yep.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. So I'm gonna, like Brett did, I'm gonna keep bringing up BAR because that's something that is major and it's so impactful in our building right now. It's really has grown and it's really becoming its own thing, and we have collaborated every week with each team in the school to discuss all students. And right now, we have probably discussed about 95% of our students, each one of them. And it really breaks down what interventions they need, what students' social and emotional needs are, and their academic and attendance needs. So we have gotten through, on some teams, all of the students, and we're just looking to finish up the last 5%. What BAR has really done and impacted the middle school with, it's increased home and school communication, student services communications with the students and with home, and also with the teachers and the guardians. So it's been a really great thing. On another note, our attendance has been phenomenal. We just got information from Heidi on Monday that our chronically absent students, we have 5 out of 465 students that are chronically absent, which is only 1.3% of our building. So we're
Great.
really, really proud of that number. And a lot of work has gone into that. So Lori, our attendance coordinator, has done an amazing job. So
So
kudos
stop
to her.
right there for 1 second. So I'm going to put context around that.
I was
Last
gonna say
year,
compared
greater than
to-
10.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
Okay, so we're talking
Yeah.
about, literally.
District-wide, we were running 15,
Yeah.
20
Yeah.
last
So
year.
to be at 1.5%, 2%,
Yeah, that's
that's
huge.
That's an
That's
improvement, like a
Yeah.
5-time improvement, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
obviously it's early in the year, we haven't gotten to the cold and flu season, but just,
Yeah, right.
it's something we talk about all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Good work.
It's been a lot of communications and a lot of different people. The teachers are reaching out. I've been having conversations with parents when they're confused about our protocol for it. So it's been, and the nurses involved, and it's just, we're seeing the fruits of our labor, and we're really, really proud of it. Our late start work for our professional development, we worked diligently on each department scope and sequence of what they're teaching throughout the year, and created that to be able to put out on our websites for easy access for families and students. So what they can look forward to, parents have any questions, so it's all out there, it's ready. Heidi's working on putting it up there. We're really also very proud of that. And now we're focusing on during that time, we're focused on our NWA data, taking suggested interventions for each student from the NEWAs, and work on best practices for teachers, and most importantly, differentiation lessons and developing data walls. So that work is really important to us, which will also lead right back into BAR, and that NWA testing is going to be a major factor in what we talk about with our students. Some fun things that are coming up, like Mr. Caverly said, our our Veterans Day celebration is on November 3rd. We're honoring our veterans and first responders. The line will start at 8:30, and the assembly starts at 9, and the luncheon is immediately after in our CAF. Our ecology club is currently working on making the pollinator garden at the top of the hill a nice space for any class to use. And the possible usage of that is not limited to these, but just some ideas for them. So a relaxing break. ELA can use it as a peace place to write or read. Science can make some outdoor observations through botany out there. Their long-term goal, which I'm pretty excited about, looking into a grant for a learning pavilion to be built with the picnic tables. They haven't decided where or brought up a place yet, but that's just one place that we would like to go, and have picnic tables with that. The civil rights team is doing a really great thing right now. When you walk into our building, we had a few signs hanging in frames, and it's a little outdated, and it talks about it's just a welcoming sign. And so instead of us taking that over as adults, we have 21 students that are interested in collaborating and making a new sign that talks about our civil rights in our school. So we're excited to see what that's going to become. So fun events. We have our Spootastic virtual pumpkin decorating contest running through the October 31st. I know certain Mrs. Gilpatrick has her advisory all doing it together, so it's really brought advisories together. The seventh grade ice cream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream. Ice cream social is on the 31st. And then thank you for passing that Dungeon and Dragons stuff. I know that some adults in our school are very excited about that, and other adults are really excited about the dodgeball part. So it's really getting not just the kids excited, but the adults to participate too. And then we're really excited to bring back the vocabulary parade for our October 27th assembly. So all students are going to, students that want to participate, I've asked a few and they said no, and I'm like, come on guys, buck up. They're going to dress up, but they have to pick a vocabulary word and wear it over their costume, and that vocabulary word has to be their costume. So one kid already asked me, Mrs. Goulet, can I wear an inflatable dinosaur? Sure, put prehistoric on it and you're great. I don't know how you're going to sit. He's like, I'm just going to stand all day. So we're really excited about that. I can't wait to see it. And then that is all for us.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any last comments from the board? In that case, I will ask for a motion to enter into executive session, please.
I move to enter into an executive session for the purpose of bargaining between the MSCD number 35 and the Quantigan Education Association pursuant to Title I MRSA 4056D.
I'll second.
Lisa, thank you very much. All in favor? That's 5-0, and we are moving into executive session. Thank you all for coming, and have a